As now the entire multiverse is about to come under attack. There is a malevolent force at work, one driven by a singular goal.
I hope you're watching, big guy.
Welcome back, everyone. Press F in the chat for everyone in the Arrowverse, for all those people that died. This will be my Crisis on Infinite Earths Episode 1 video. There was a whole bunch of Easter eggs, a bunch of cameos, so we'll break it all down. If you're new to the channel, I'll be doing videos for all the episodes of the crossover. Be sure to subscribe to get everything. We're doing a flash ring giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave your favorite moment from the episode on the video. Careful for spoilers from the episode if you haven't seen it yet because so much stuff happened, but we'll do top 10 WTF and Easter eggs as we go along. Starting with number 10, the Monitor explains the origin of the multiverse. It kind of starts with a universe Big Bang explainer and then how everything split out into different universes till we get to the modern day multiverse. He has not fully explained the origin of the Anti-Monitor yet, but we just got a teaser for that at the end of the episode with Pariah Wells, the newly minted Pariah Wells, formerly Nash Wells. So they'll probably explain that in episode 2, which will be tomorrow night on Monday. But number 9, all the cameos from the actors from other DC movies and television shows. So we start with Earth 89 for the Batman 1989 movie. They play the theme song from the Batman 1989 movie, and then Robert Wuhl, who played Alexander Knox during that movie, cameos reading a newspaper from the Gotham Gazette, which was the newspaper he worked for, reading Batman Captures Joker headline, and in the picture, it's actually Michael Keaton's version of Batman. But here's the thing, when the skies turn red and he gets really upset and turns to look at the sky at the back signal and says, "I hope you're out there watching, big guy," it's not Michael Keaton's Batman symbol. It's a different one that looks more like the Batwoman bat symbol, which is kind of weird. I don't know why they did it that way. If they're going for the Batman 1989 reference, why wouldn't you just use his Batman logo? But that might have been a licensing thing. Maybe Warner Brothers didn't let them use that. But the weird thing is that he's got the correct logo in the newspaper article. If you zoom in and look on his chest, it's Michael Keaton's classic Batman logo, so I don't know why this would be different from the bat signal in the sky. Then we go to Earth 9, and it winds up being the Titans cameo with Jason Todd and Hawk. The funny thing about this is if you watch the Titans finale from Season 2, Jason Todd is nowhere to be found, so apparently he was busy filming this crossover when they were filming their finale. But you could say that this kind of soft canonizes Titans to the multiverse of the Arrowverse, but obviously they're on a very different Earth, so that explains why they're not running into each other every single week. We go back to Earth X from the crossover from a couple years ago, and the Ray comes back. Everybody wondered when he was going to come back. We go to Earth 66, Gotham City, for the Batman 1966 TV series. Burt Ward, in real life, doing a very Robin-esque line of dialogue and walking a dog that looks a lot like Ace, the Bat-Hound from the Batman comics. We then go to Will Wheaton, who's on Supergirl's Earth, Earth 38, foretelling the doom of all, screaming at everyone about the end of the world. And if you're wondering why Will Wheaton had a cameo during this, it's because he used to voice some animated characters in the early 2000s in the DC universe, so he has played DC characters before. The number 8, the redo on the Superman origin scene. So obviously we meet baby John Kent Superboy. This is right out of the comics. He's going to be on that TV show that Superman's getting on the CW next year. I don't know if he's still going to be a baby on that TV show, but they basically do Superman's origin story because Argo City is going to get wiped by the antimatter wave, so they stick him in the only pod that's left and fire him off of that planet. Just like Supergirl's origin story too, the pod goes off course and gets stuck in a temporal wormhole and winds up on old Oliver Queen from 2046's planet, which is Earth 16, so that they can go back and visit him from that cameo during Legends of Tomorrow Season 1, the one-armed, older version of Oliver Queen. Superman also confirmed later that Kara's mother, played by Erica Durance, was also killed, but during episode 2, Erica Durance will be back, cameoing again as Lois Lane from Smallville with Tom Welling's Superman, so she will be back on the show. There's this big thread with Oliver and Mia through the episode because obviously she's going to get the spin-off TV show that's going to debut next year. Green Arrow and the Canaries, I believe, is the title of that show. All of his conversations with her is basically him passing the torch. There's a lot of on-the-nose dialogue. It gets a little cringy, and you kind of tell what they're doing. Like, oh, there should always be a Green Arrow because you're getting a spin-off TV show. The reason why they had to rush that is obviously because of the twist at the end of the episode, press F in the chat for Oliver Queen, because he wasn't going to be around to pass the torch in episode 2. But the number 7, Harbinger goes around collecting all the mains from the different shows, brings them to Supergirl's Earth, that sort of gives them the business about what's going on with the antimatter wave. It's an event that started a long time ago and has just taken this long to get to their version of Earth. There was one more funny cameo that I spotted during the Legends of Tomorrow scene when Harbinger showed up at the sports bar during quiz night to pick them up. The person leading quiz night is actually Griffin Newman, who you might recognize as Arthur from Amazon's The Tick TV show. But they're not trying to canonize The Tick to the Arrowverse or anything like that. He was just being a guest star in that funny role. It's just a funny coincidence that he was also on The Tick TV show. They have a couple funny moments when all the heroes show up, but number 6, once Barry tells Oliver about the future newspaper, I'm supposed to die, the Monitor told me that I have to. Oliver gets all pissed off, calls a flag on the play, and talks to the Monitor, and he gives him the business. But the Monitor tells him that the deal he made to sacrifice his life in exchange for Barry and Kara's only covered last year's crossover during Elseworlds. All bets are off for Crisis on Infinite Earths. The reason why they did that, I think, is for the writers to keep the tension up. Otherwise, you wouldn't worry about the Flash at all. But really, to be honest, most of the mains will have to go back to their TV shows after Crisis, not including Oliver Queen. Press F in the chat one more time. But there were a couple moments at the end of the episode, especially lines of dialogue from Pariah Wells, where they said, things aren't going down the way we thought they would. Things are going to be very different. That's the writer's way to say that we're changing things from the comics so that they won't be quite so predictable and you won't know what's happening 3 episodes before it actually happens. But there are a couple things that you can probably assume based on what's going on with the shows going forward. The Flash will come back. There'll be a back half of the season. Supergirl will still have a back half of the season. Most of the Legends will come back after the crossover because their next season starts right after Crisis ends. But they just want you to think that it's still possible for the Flash to die during this at some point. If he does die, though, he will have to be brought back to life in some twisty way. I'll explain the twist with Oliver Queen, though, because he's not out of the crossover completely. He will come back later in the crossover, but in a slightly different way. But number 5, another Oliver Queen, old Oliver Queen from 2046. They sort of give him some closure when Sarah, Lois, and Brainiac go to Earth 16 in the Arrow Cave to pick up John Kent. So not only is this on a different Earth, it's another Earth in the future. The reason why they went to this Earth was to give him some closure, because he's like the sad old version of Oliver Queen. I'm so sad, everything's terrible, all my friends are dead, everything's in ruins. They wanted to give him a happy moment and let him be a little bit cheerful, feel better about the choices that he made, like, oh wow, it really worked out for me in an alternate reality, before the antimatter wave comes and wipes his version of Earth, and they poured away. There was also an Elseworlds story where a version of Superman, after his pod left Krypton, actually landed in Gotham City and he was adopted by the Waynes, raised as their son, and got a very Batman-esque version of a Superman origin story. So you could look at this as a small Easter egg for that kind of story, because you have to assume that if they had never shown up to pick up baby John Kent, then old Oliver Queen would have raised him as his own son. But number 4, the battle to save the planet. You see all the Anti-Monitor's minions. They're supposed to be shadow demons. That's the way they were described in Nora's future newspaper. I feel like the design of them is okay, but they're just meant to be like these big CG creatures that they can blow up on a whim. The jump gate that they create to get all the people off the planet looks remarkably like a Stargate for anybody who's fans of the Stargate TV series. But they're also doing the towers from the comic book. So in the comic book, the Monitor creates these giant towers to stop the Anti-Monitor. They look like they're ripped right off the comic book page. But the funny thing is that Harbinger says that the Monitor placed them there at the dawn of time on all these different planets. You would think that the Legion of Superheroes with their 30th century technology would be able to detect something like that underground the city. Oliver has a couple special arrows, including 3, the new trick one that he uses to disable the Monitor. I'm assuming that that's the one that he was using Curtis and all the other people to collect stuff to create. But they kind of answered the question with the Monitor being evil with the Pariah Wells sort of tag at the end. It's not the Monitor you need to be worried about. He definitely wants to help people. It's the Anti-Monitor that you need to worry about. When they come back to the Arrow Cave, the Monitor is very clear, though, that billions and billions of people died, but Oliver was able to save an extra billion people by sacrificing himself. But then number 2, Nash Wells shows up as the Pariah character from the comics. There's all this backstory that he brushes over really quickly, explaining how he used to be Nash Wells, and a lot of that gets into the prequel scene that I did a video for a couple days ago. They tagged it at the end of all the episodes in the mid-season finales, the same scene of Nash Wells trying to enter the Monitor's place. The newly minted Pariah explains that he's now serving his penance because what he was actually doing there was being tricked by the Anti-Monitor into releasing him from his confinement. So it did confirm my theory that when he was speaking to this person, booming voice that he bow down and worship him and he'll get everything that he wants, he was actually speaking to the Anti-Monitor, who just sounds a lot like the regular Monitor. I'm assuming they'll show us a version of that backstory during episode 2, maybe just a quick couple scenes, because we've already seen all that stuff happen where he opens the door and is bathed in white light. but those 7 symbols were the symbols of the 7 different paragons. They'll get into all that stuff during episode 2, but episode 2 will also be their Kevin Conroy Batman cameo. It'll also be Tom Welling's cameo, and that's where we'll meet Kingdom Come Superman for the first time, also played by Brandon Routh. Really the biggest surprise of the episode, though, was as they led off with number 1, the death of Oliver Queen. Press F in the chat, pour one out, do whatever you want to, say your goodbyes, but he won't be gone for that long. This version of Oliver Queen definitely died here, but Stephen Amell will be back in the crossover later as a slightly different version of the character. There's a lot of theories that he will become the next version of the Spectre in the Arrowverse. They've already cast Jim Corrigan, who is the comic book Spectre for the crossover. It's a different actor, so what might happen is that he gets killed by the Anti-Monitor, so the god of the Arrowverse, Multiverse, needs to select and mint a new Spectre to replace him, and that person becomes Oliver Queen, who has died. But it's still open to speculation, so post all your theories in the comments. Do you think that Oliver Queen will come back later in the crossover as a slightly different version of the character? Of course, I'll do a video for episode 2, episode 3. Those will post Monday and Tuesday night. I'll try to get to all the videos as quickly as I can. My next video tomorrow morning will be for the new Rick and Morty episode 4, and because of so much stuff happening, I won't be able to get to Watchmen episode 7, but the Watchmen finale is next week, so don't worry about that. Everyone click here to watch the Wonder Woman 1984 trailer and all my Easter eggs a billion more times, then click here for that prequel scene of Nash Wells becoming Pariah Wells. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.